There are people whose days started out as per normal, when out of the blue something happens that challenges everything they believe in. These people may be in the city or the country and were either driving or just strolling, when they are suddenly transported back to another time where everything they were observing is in the past and the atmosphere is filled with an eerie silence which may last seconds or minutes. Other people may have been transported to a different state, a different country, or even a different dimension altogether. These people have experienced a glitch or a time slip. The following are 5 true stories that will have you question your very existence. Number 5, R.W. Balcom, California, 1962. One day in 1962 and early in the morning, R.W. Balcom and his wife of Live Oak, California were travelling to Lake Tahoe. A few miles east of Placeville, on Highway 50, they stopped to eat at a quaint old restaurant, which neither of them had ever noticed on any of their previous trips to the region. The food was excellent and the waitress and cook were so friendly that the Balcoms promised to return. On their return journey, they decided to revisit the restaurant, but it was nowhere to be seen. The Balcoms travelled that route on 3 successive weekends that year, searching for the friendly little restaurant with the good food and friendly service, but it had simply vanished into nothingness. They had journeyed over Highway 50 to Lake Tahoe on many occasions, but were never able to find the little restaurant. Number 4, Francis E. Peterson, Iowa, 1935. One Sunday afternoon, Francis E. Peterson of Keokuk, Iowa, her husband, and 4 children were returning from a weekend in Missouri. They decided to take a shortcut on a dirt road. They drove down a hill into a valley. Then as they reached the fringe of the valley, they were astonished to see a well where women in sunbonnets and long full skirts covered by large aprons were drawing in a wooden pail by a winch. They also observed other women carrying water in pails balanced on wooden yokes across their shoulders. Bearded men who were tending sheep and gathering wood wore loose-fitting trousers, smocks, and large black hats. The Petersons had never heard of such a settlement in the area of St. Patrick, Missouri, and as it turned out, no one else had either. Since that strange event, they'd looked for the old world settlement and made numerous inquiries of old settlers and relatives in the area, but no one knew of such a valley. Had they been in a time slip and gone back in time? Number 3, Cathy Kramer, Massachusetts, 1960. On August the 15th, 1960 at 7 p.m, 6-year-old Cathy Kramer disappeared from a home on Park Street in Woods Hole, Massachusetts. Local police officers, state police, firemen, a crew of volunteers and 2 police bloodhounds scoured a 2-mile area while a Coast Guard vessel patrolled the adjacent waterfront. At 9 p.m, 200 airmen from nearby Otis Air Force Base initiated a search for the missing child. Of course, the Kramer household was the first place that was meticulously searched before the original alarm had been issued. In addition, Falmouth Deputy Police Chief Anthony Morgado and Reverend Wilkin J. Kingwell, rector of St. John's Church in Newtonville, testify that they had carefully explored the house 3 times. Yet, amazing as it seems, and after a massive search, at 3 a.m. the young girl was found sleeping peacefully in her bed. When the emotionally exhausted parents asked Cathy where she'd been, the 6-year-old announced that she was not telling. Even after serious questioning from police officers and other parties involved in the search, including relatives, all got the same answer: "I'm not telling." There are theories that a kidnapper had a change of plan and decided that he'd better return the child, making a promise not to tell where they'd been. But surely he would have been noticed. Had some cosmic interdimensional being removed the child for a time for some purpose of its own, then brought her back to our plane of reality with a promise not to betray their secret? Or maybe the child herself had innocently crawled between the spheres of existence. Number 2. Thomas Kessel, Pennsylvania, 1956. Thomas R. Kessel was a brewery worker from Johannesburg, South Africa, who suddenly appeared walking in a street in New York City with no memory of how he had come to be on that street, where the last thing he remembered was leaving a tavern in Johannesburg in April of that year. Thomas had somehow crossed some dimensional wall and suddenly found himself transported to New York. This challenges the adage that the shortest distance between 2 points may not be a straight line. With such an experience as interdimensional travel, apparently the shock led to Thomas Kessel losing his memory. Perhaps the amnesic reaction would be necessary for his survival. The enigma of Thomas R. Kessel and his claim that he suddenly found himself walking a street in New York City after leaving a pub back in Johannesburg is reinforced by the problem of just how the man could have entered the country unnoticed. The man did not recover his memory until he had undergone a couple of psychiatric sessions. He had no passport, yet he could not have boarded either a ship or an airplane without one. Number 1. Carmen Cheney, 1936. One day Carmen and her aunt were crossing an intersection when she suddenly noticed a strange old lady in black. The old woman moved slowly with difficulty, as if her legs were not functioning properly. Assuming that the lady must be ill, Carmen and her Aunt Frankie ran out into the street to help her. When the old lady saw the two women approaching her, she just panicked, as if she wanted no one to approach her. When they were about 20 feet from her, they noticed her large, blazing eyes set deep in a chalk-white face, the skin of which appeared to be stretched tightly over a skull. She was about 5 feet tall, thin and scrawny. Snow-white hair showed in wisps under her large black hat. She wore a high-necked, long-sleeved dress and high-buttoned shoes, and overall her clothes appeared something from the turn of the century. Her black hat, as well as her dress, was so old to the point of decay, as both had turned greenish. She carried no bag or purse. She looked quite a pathetic figure. By this stage, several of the neighbours on the block were also watching the strange old lady retreating from the two well-meaning young women. Then the old lady hobbled into an alley and looked around helplessly, as she realised that more than 30 people were now observing her bizarre behaviour. Then, as everybody was staring at her, she stopped for a brief moment and then suddenly vanished, disappearing in the blink of an eye. The many witnesses to the disappearance exchanged opinions and speculations. Police officers were even called to the scene, but because the story appeared to be unbelievable, they chose to believe that the old woman had been ill and had simply stumbled out of sight of her observers. An extensive search of the alley and the houses on either side revealed no such person of that unusual description.